All right, well, I think we're good.
Okay.
Seems to be working. So the next question is, what pets do you guys remember having growing up, or your favorite
Favorite what?
pet?
Pets? Oh, I had
Pet or pets?
2 dogs. The Ginger. Of course, I lived in the stone house that my dad was born in too, and it was a 2-story stone house. And we had Ginger, which was an old dog, but she was very friendly. You know, she didn't look at anything. And then I had a black dog that I called Blackie. Imagine that. And somebody shot him
Oh.
one time. I think it was Val Barley, but I was in 4-H a lot, and I had the one year that Dad had money enough to get me a steer to raise with a Hereford steer, and it was getting so good, and it was about time for the fair, and somebody from Wichita it was pheasant season, and they shot it. I never did ever get to show. But I'd done a lot of other things. I sewed and cooked and everything from 4-H. But yeah, they shot the only one I ever had. But we had a lot of cows and Dad had them all named.
The dairy cows? Then?
Yeah. We milked as high as 15 at a time. And then he finally, after I was grown up more that I didn't have to help milk, he got a milking machine. So, anyway, I guess that was the time it was come along. I don't know. Yeah, both my brothers went to war. And one of them was an engineer and one of them was an infantry. And they always argued back and forth that which one went first. And Gilbert always said, well, it had to be the infantry because we had to build the bridges so you could walk over.
The engineers.
The engineers, yeah. So, and I can remember when Gilbert came home from the war, when it was over, I was in school over at the cottage, and he walked in the back door. And oh my gosh, I was never so tickled with anything in my life to see him. Yeah, they both served. And and it ruined both of them, and that's, it's terrible. But he said the only way they would go out on the lines to fight was the sergeant would hand him, or the lieutenant would hand him a pint of whiskey and said, "We hope that you get back safe." And then they wonder why all the guys drank all the time,
Yeah.
I mean, they fought for 2 years. That was long, And then I had a cousin, I guess he was calling him a cousin. He was adopted by Grandma Bell that went, and he was shot, I think, just at D-Day when he went to get off the ship before he could get on the beach.
Yeah.
He was shot. We never did hear anything from him after that. He was such a nice guy. Victor, his name was Victor. Okay, Dad, you?
You have any pets or favorite
Oh,
pets
pets.
growing up?
Well, we raised coon dogs and greyhounds,
Greyhounds?
and we had a little black female, and she was always the first one to the coyote. She didn't throw it, but she would turn it so that you had a throw dog and you had a throat dog.
Yeah.
And she was always the first one there to turn the coyote towards them so they could get it. And they'd jump out of a moving vehicle, and she hit a rock post and broke her hip.
Oh.
And normally they destroy dogs, but she was so good, speed-wise, took her to a vet, and he said he could fix her up, and so we used her to breed and raise pups.
She a greyhound?
Greyhounds, yep. We had coon dogs too, and we had one that always went with us because he was good at tracking. And this one coyote got away, we lost it. And 3 days later, a guy down on the Pawnee, which is 17, 18 miles away, called and said, "Your dog is down here." I went down there, and the coyote was laying there. That coon dog had followed and got that coyote, and then was laying there beside it, waiting for somebody to come and get the coyote. Yep. No, that's what we didn't have really individuals because we raised. We had the female and the males. And
Got fingers in your mouth.
the pups we would go out and run them. Teach. We didn't have like they have now, where they have the fake rabbit running around. We had real rabbits. They'd go out and chase the rabbits, but you didn't want them to catch them, because that if you kicked them out on a coyote and a jackrabbit jumped up, they
They
would
go to the jackrabbit.
go after the jackrabbit. You didn't want them doing that. So
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next question?
Let's see. I guess we kind of answered this already, but what do you remember your parents doing, working on?
Well, as it turned out, when Mom and Dad moved to town, well, it got so Mom cooked at the school all the time I went to Ransom, because, you know, there was no school buses. You got to school on your own. And when it was 9 miles from Ransom, why, she would take me in the car. And then she got a job cooking at the school. And she cooked all the time at the school while I was in high school, or junior high and high school. And so, and then Dad was, if I had been a farmer, he was a plumber. And he dug ditches, but he had a backhoe. And Gilbert kind of worked with him. They were both, had lots of things to do, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
you cooked with your mom.
And I cooked with my mom for
Yeah.
1 year after I was
After
married.
we were married.
Oh, yes, I did too. Yes, I did, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, really, 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 really.
No,
Yes, I
we
did.
milked 2 cows, and when we moved to town, we brought the cows to town because Dad had the sale barn, so we'd just have to go up every morning before school and milk the cows,
Mm-hmm.
and milk them when we got out of school then, in the evening,
Yeah.
and fed them up there to sale barn.
The thing it was, you didn't only have cows to milk and take care of. You had chickens and pigs and all that. And Mom used to say, she'd holler at me to not carry, well, I'd done the quickest thing I could. I carried both 5-gallon buckets at a time
Yeah.
to the chicken feed. She said, you're going to be round-shouldered when you get big. I know you are. You're going to be sick from carrying that food like that to the cows and the chickens. Of course, those kids had a lot of fun with the pigs, you know. Then families were together a lot,
Mm-hmm.
always on Sunday. Vera and the kids, and Vera and Joe and the kids would come out for dinner. And that's just the way it was, you know, you just expected it. And us kids always played and played. Yes, we did too. and when it got night and some of the pigs were outside, you know, and the moon came up, then us kids would ride on the pig. If
Sure,
we could
I'm
catch
sure they
them.
love that.
No, they didn't. They hollered. And then we had a turkey that the kids were also scared of all the time, and it'd peck you and everything. I was even scared of it. But we'd take a walk because there was a long bridge down to the north of the house,
Mm-hmm.
and we'd all go down there, and then I'd have to get that turkey and hold on to his neck until everybody got in the yard. And then Joe Lyon, Vera's husband, ran a gas truck, and that turkey would chase the tires.
It's your
And
attack
then
turkey.
and then finally Joe ended up running over him, and I was so glad we ate him. I don't know if he done it on purpose or just accidentally, but anyway, he did it. Cause
One of
yeah.
those signs on the fence: "Beware of turkey."
Yeah, turkeys, they're the dumbest creatures. They always would roost, and then they would drown in a rainstorm. They stand there and look at their head in the air and breathe that and drown.
And you'd have to
Yeah.
run them in you'd have to take them in. If it started to rain, you'd have to take them inside. Run them inside.
Yeah,
And then we had guineas. Oh my gosh, those were the loudest things you have ever heard.
And if-
Really?
Grandma had the guineas, and if she said one word to tell you something, if you didn't hear what she said, you ain't gonna hear it again, because them guineas started hollering, and you couldn't
And they wouldn't
back
shut
to
up.
the house to find out what was said.
And they roosted in the trees at night. So you always knew if anything was close by, they would let you know.
Yep.
You know, any animal or anything. Then in those days we had hobos, as they call them, or yeah, because they'd come across the pasture. I'd see them coming,
Yeah.
and I'd
Well-
say, "Mom, there's somebody coming across the pasture," and she always gave them a meal. You know, she always had a meal prepared.
They didn't live that far from railroad tracks.
No, we weren't that far from the railroad tracks, but I didn't like that because they come up, you know. But they were just people that didn't have homes, I guess, like homeless people we have now.
Yeah.
You always wonder what happened to them. Okay, next question.
Well, we've got like 30.
Okay.
Phone number 6.
Okay.
Well, so what did you guys do for fun growing up then? Like roller skating is one of the things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Hunting.
Yeah. We did hunt after we were married. Well, that was after we were married. Before we were married, when we was in high school, I got in trouble, and it was brought up at the alumni. I and a bunch of girls went down to Ness City, and their eagle, which they were the Eagles, was set out in front of the school on a
Yep.
post, and we didn't think it was the right color. So we painted it red.
Nice.
But
We didn't
we
get-
got the revenge.
But yeah, and then they
The
got
next
revenge.
night, 2 pickup loads, 10 of us, we got 2 gallons of blue paint. We drove up to Ransom. We started out at the intersection. We made a big arrow pointing in, and then we painted Ness City High School all the way to the. And the night marshal was there, and we told him what he was
Street.
going to do. He
Main
says,
Street.
on Main Street. He said, as long as you don't paint anything on the sidewalk. And we said, nope, we're going to paint it in the street. We did all the way to the schoolhouse.
The thing of it was, we didn't get the eagle all painted. We wanted to. Some of us girls did, and there was 3 or 4 carloads of us. And of course, Vera gave us the paint. And we seen a car coming. There was 2 or 3 of us up there going to paint him, and we had paintbrushes. And a car was coming, and so I just threw a can of paint at the eagle. And we hid under some bushes that was there till the car went by. But then it wasn't very long the next morning. You know, the principal was calling us into the office.
It was very obvious who did it.
Why was it obvious?
Well, how many people did you
Red
have in your
paint.
school? You only had.
Well, there was 19 in our class,
Right.
and the others run about the same.
Yeah.
But these we were sophomores, I think.
Yeah.
Or were we? Maybe we were seniors. No,
I don't know.
Juniors, maybe. But otherwise, we just go to town. One time the folks let me take the car to town, which wasn't very often. I didn't get to go to town.
Mm-hmm.
But we was acting silly. I don't know what we was doing. Somebody was chasing us, I guess.
Playing
with the car.
ditch 'em.
Playing ditch 'em, probably with the cars.
Trying to
And-
push the other people into the ditch? Or?
No, I went in the ditch.
Oh, you took into the ditch.
And then Mom wondered why the car was all scratched up. 'Cause I went in some trees.
Driving without your lights on.
Yeah, and I was driving without my lights on. And of course, she was just having a fit. Mom was not a great disciplinarian, I guess, but she, I always knew what she thought and what she.
Oh boy.
Boy, that was a good
Yeah.
turnover.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. But she was very, I guess she was like our kids. She didn't really tell you, she expected you to know what was right from wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's the way we've raised our kids. They weren't really punished for anything as far as punished, except once or twice I spanked them. But not very much probably in their lives. We expected them to, and we talked to them and said, this is what we expect you to do, and that's what they did,
Mm-hmm.
There was very few times that we had to correct them, because they knew that we wouldn't put up with liquor and we wouldn't put up with smoking, and that was the way it was. There was no 2 ways about it. After my brother was in there, and both of them in there, and the things the way they did their families, they both ended up leaving their families.
Mm-hmm.
And and after now we're getting back together on the computer, which is such a wonderful thing, because the cousins are getting to know cousins on the computer
Mhm.
that didn't know them before, which were Theron's kids and Gilbert's kids.
That's great.
And Jeannie's kids, Jeannie and her husband is the mayor of Tonka, Oklahoma. And then Bernice and all the kids live in Salina, that's Gilbert's kids.
Hmm.
But now they've got, so they email all the time, so we all know what's going on. In fact, there's gonna be a family reunion, a Randall reunion, the 30th of June in Salina. So if you guys could come, we'd be tickled to death.
I think we're leaving that.
Oh,
day on
you're leaving,
vacation.
that's right, your folks
Vacation.
said you was going on
Around that
vacation.
day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, but when they were young, when their kids were young, I mean, I got together a lot.
Mhm.
Not like Vera and Joe's kids, but they would come maybe once a month, so all of us were together.
Yeah.
Because I remember one time we had, of course, we had a lot of tornadoes on the farm. I can remember one time I don't think it was the time that I was baptized. Then I was baptized in the Church of Christ, and they'd done the baptizing in the river, you know. And it was close to where we lived. And it got real bad. Always the storm then came out of the northwest. And you always knew then, look out, because something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh. And anyway, we had gotten home then, because we had a big picnic and things afterwards. And we'd gotten home, and Dad got out of the car, and his hat just went straight up in the air, like that. We got in the house quick.
I
The
can
house
imagine.
never did get damaged much, but the milking barn, which was stone, was tore down. So, but the big red barn, the shaped roof, you know, and everything, always, well, I helped Dad re-shingle it once. That was a job, but I thought it was fun then. You know, I wasn't old enough to know better, thought it was work. And we hauled bales, baled and hauled bales. I can remember Mom was so allergic to, well, she had hay fever so bad, and she would wear a red handkerchief tied around her face. And nothing to do, she had to come out there, because we put the bales up into the attic, or the
Hayloft.
hayloft in the farm, and it would run up the bale, and she would come up there. Because I was the one that was in the barn. And she'd have to come up there and help, she thought. I always told her, no, Mom, I can do it.
Thunder.
Is that thunder?
Yep.
You're
That's
kidding.
thunder.
Nope.
So it was I guess I was glad to be raised on a farm. I don't know. I think about, you know, the kids in town always got to do a lot of other things. I mean, they had Halloween and everything, and I never did ever get to go trick or treating until the kids were born, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan,
What?
what'd you do when you was in high school?
When I was
How'd you
young,
chase
What'd you do
girls?
for fun?
What'd you do for fun? Chase
fun.
girls.
No. Well, we
No.
worked on we worked out your granddad's farm. So we worked out, and then Dad was farming. Well, Dad was elected. He was just undersheriff for 2 years, and then he run for election with sheriff when I was a junior in high school, junior and senior, and then 2 years after that he was reelected. Back then you could only run for 2 terms, and then now they're in there forever. I don't
I
understand that.
don't understand that.
But no, we worked out to Granddad's farm, and then Dad started farming again when he was still sheriff, and I did the farming out there on the farm. We didn't raise anything, and we had a bumper crop in '52. We didn't raise a bushel in '53, '54, and '55. We had severe drought. Everything blew out there. I was out there in '53 chiseling the ground to keep it from blowing, because the neighbor was blowing over on us, and it was 5 degrees above zero, and I'd drive a half a mile to the west and get off the tractor and stand by the manifold and get back on it and drive half a mile back to the east, back and forth, doing that chiseling to stop it from blowing. And there was no comfort cab, and you didn't have insulated nothing on, just regular.
No, we never heard of insulated stuff.
Wasn't no insulated coveralls or anything like that at all back then. They came later.
And the funny thing is, that the weather was so bad, and then, you know, when it snowed and, you know, and things like that. Dad had a wheat crop one year that everybody that came by, he'd take them over on the school land to show them. It was beautiful. And 2 days afterwards, it hailed out, took every bit of it. Yeah, so, you know, farming, and it still is today, you know, there's a chance. It's not gonna be
The
there.
farmers are the biggest gamblers in the world.
They really are.
They planted in September and hope they'll have a crop next June.
Yeah, we stayed with those friends of ours, you know, and on the farm when we went to this last one night. And they got hit by the tornado 2 years ago, wasn't it? It was 3.
Yeah.
And they haven't, everything just kinda like it was.
Right.
You know, they haven't cleaned up a lot.
I went to work for the State Highway Engineering Department in '53 for $231 a month. And I worked for them for 3 years, and they sent us out to Syracuse, Kansas. And they had a 3-day dust storm out there. And we had worked 2 days. We gravelled secondary roads, and we'd put sand on this road out there northwest of Syracuse, and they had that windstorm and dirt storm. And when we got done with the dirt storm, we went out, and there wasn't one piece of gravel left on that road that we had just finished. And we all decided, they said, "You're gonna be out there for 4 months." We said, "No, we ain't." We all drove back to Ness City and resigned. Wasn't gonna live in that environment. Because it was so dirty, you couldn't get anything to eat at the restaurant. The only thing you get was prepackaged food. And we had wet towels down under the door and around the windows. So you open the door and look down the hall, you couldn't see the next room. It was that much dust in the air.
That's the way it was in this city and this last time in Ransom, when
Yeah.
we went out last weekend.
Yeah.
I thought sure it was gonna be that way.
Yeah, they had a lot of blowing. There's a lot of fields out there they're gonna blow. if
I've
we
never
don't
seen it that way.
Get
since.
some moisture out there and
Gosh,
get
it was terrible.
some cover crop on them.
So anyway, we met when I went to Soda Jerk in the city and he was farming.
That's
Would
one
you
of the-
believe-
That's the next question, actually. How and when did you guys
That's
meet?
how we met. Well, I think my niece had something to do with it, Wanda. She always wanted us to get together. And I had seen him and I knew who he was, but I hadn't really talked to him until he come in there. He always ordered a cherry Coke.
Now I can't stand Coke.
I should have told you something, honey.
That is-
And all he had was a pickup. That's what we courted in, was a pickup. And then they had what was the name of that place, honey, that had that ice cream that we liked?
Fairmont.
Fairmont ice cream place around the corner. We always had Fairmont sherbet cones. Oh, they were good. But we done lots of things. We went with Vera and a lot of them fishing and
We went to El Paso to see Dean before he
went
shipped
to El
out.
Paso to see Dean before, when he was in the Army. And, yeah. And then was married in the Church of Christ at Ransom. Then he moved out on the farm. How many miles out of town?
3 miles.
3 miles out of Ness City. Dad put us in it was his dad's farm, and it
They had
was
the
real
house, but
old
it didn't
square
have no indoor
house.
plumbing.
It didn't have indoor plumbing, so Dad put the bathroom in and everything and drilled it well. And we had lots of fun. We hunted jackrabbits at night with the pharmacist from town and a school teacher. They'd ride in the back of the pickup and us girls would drive. We had a lot of them. They'd put them up, well, they sold them then. We put them up on the wash house.
Got a quarter apiece for him.
Yeah. We pile them up on the top of our wash house, so they get enough
They'd
that we call a
freeze,
truck to come and get them.
And they
They
get a whole
freeze.
pickup load. I mean, the half-ton pickup was almost dragging the bumper on the ground, and I'd have to haul them to Bazine, Kansas, which is 11 miles east of Ness City. And the mink farms from Denver bought them.
We'd buy
And
'em.
that's where they went to Denver then for the mink farms.
And we bowled a lot. Well, after we got to Hutch, I guess we bowled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And had
No, the jackrabbits, well, the farmers that had alfalfa would call us because the jackrabbits in the wintertime would ruin their alfalfa crop. So we'd go down there and she'd hold the spotlight, and usually it was Gomer and I. The teacher didn't go with us at night, normally he went on the weekends. But anyway, she'd put the spotlight on the jackrabbits and we'd shoot. I was shooting 22 short hollow points. You could see the bullet all the way to the rabbit. The rabbit was set right on the
As
edge
long
of
as
the
you
spotlight.
At the
It stopped.
spotlight, it just sit right on the edge of it.
And Ollie went with us one Sunday. We were out hunting them.
You probably heard this story.
He had some shotgun shells that his granddad had. So he was rabbit stopped out there and he said, "I'll shoot it with this shotgun." So he puts the shell in and poof, comes smoke out the end of the barrel. Here come the BBs rolling out into the barrel. So he puts another one in. That jackrabbit's still sitting there. Same thing.
Same thing. And us girls
And
in the
the
pickup.
pharmacist, he just hee-hawed and fell out of the pickup and just rolling. And they thought he'd been
got
shot.
shot.
Here they come.
I
Boy,
mean,
just-
we kept running because he's a great big man, and he just went down on the ground. And I thought, oh my gosh, that teacher shot that guy. Oh, I
Never
tell you.
forget that.
Wow.
Just
Wow.
poof. Out come the smoke
come the
out the end of the
BBs out
barrel.
of the end.
Then the BBs would roll out the end of the barrel.
Oh goodness. But we had lots of fun. We had lots of family times out to the farm, and everybody would come out there for Christmas. And it wasn't a very big house. I don't know how we ever got everybody in there, but
Yeah.
didn't think about that then. Like, yeah, didn't have to have a big house. Everybody brought stuff and just came and visited.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of our friends and families, lots of time. Everybody with those. Yep. Okay, next question.
So where's the furthest you've ever traveled?
I suppose down the Caribbean.
Did you guys go on a cruise?
Yeah.
More than one.
Yeah, at least one I remember.
Dad won. He won them in
Mhm.
his salesmanship for the.
Really?
Yeah, we went down to Virgin Island, and we went to what's it?
Acapulco.
Nice.
No, Acapulco. That wasn't a cruise. That's where
Oh,
we,
that's
that's
right.
where we celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary in Acapulco.
That's right. It wasn't a cruise. We flew down.
We left that day coming back, and we've been to the Bahamas.
The Bahamas
Twice.
Twice. And this is all because he's one thing. It was all paid for. Except the first one was I didn't enjoy very much for a while because I was when I had that dizzy spells and that vertigo so bad. And they'd given me shots and things, and they had medicine for me on there to give me, but I would stayed in the cabin instead of getting out. And they finally
Yeah,
talked
on
me
that
into
cruise,
getting out.
on where? I can't think of the.
St. Thomas.
Yeah, St. Thomas was one of them. Yeah, we parked into St. Thomas on this ship, and there was a space between us and the next ship up there. Here come this. We thought we was on a huge ship. And here come this great big
Yeah,
monster
it was
in there,
giant.
and he parallel parked
That
right next
thing.
between
Oh,
the two ships.
my God. Everybody
And we
was
saw
just
all
going,
these
"You-"
cars all lined up, the people to pick people up off of the ship to take them to St. Thomas.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they lined up
Cabin.
5 or 6 hours before that ship arrived.
Yeah.
They were, because first in line, you're the one that's going to get somebody get. But
That's what she's
on
about
that
to do.
cruise was the
Oh,
St. Louis
yes.
Cardinals. Of course,
Oh, my
I'm a
goodness.
St. Louis Cardinal fan from day one, and Stan Musial and Red Shandies were on.
Oh yeah.
When I went up to, she wouldn't come out of the cabin, she was ill, so I got up. We left on a Friday or Saturday, and this was Saturday, either Saturday morning or Sunday morning. Anyway, I went up, and there these pictures were, and I said, well, that's Stan Musial, and that's Red Shandies. Pretty soon I looked over there, and there stood some Red Shandies, and I said, Red Shandies, and boy, he just come over and shook my hand, and I said, I'm going to get a picture. Will you autograph it? He said, oh yeah, I'll do that. Well, then I got her up then later in the afternoon.
So I
We
could
went up
see
there,
if
and
you've
he was
got
back
it.
up there. And yeah, he posed for a picture. He got his arm around me, and she took pictures of us. And we started back to the cabin, and then here comes Stan Musial and his wife.
She was in a wheelchair.
And I said, Stan, can I get a picture of you? Oh, yeah. And I said, would you sign it? I gave him my picture of him, and he signed it, and I took a picture of him and his wife down there.
I'm surprised
was-
we don't have it in a bank storage
When
box
I-
somewhere.
We had our name tags on when I was up on the deck. Some St. Louis people, I think he was a coordinator anyway, he said, Gary Ruthie. I said, boy, you're the first one that ever pronounced it
That's
correctly.
right.
He said, oh, we got lots of Ruthies down there in St. Louis. I didn't say any more. I didn't ask him what color they were or anything.
But he
Yep.
knew it was Rothy. You didn't.
He pronounced it correctly. And I said, you're the first one that's ever done that.
Yeah.
I keep telling them, I said, there's 5 letters in our word, in our name. Why not pronounce all
All
5?
5.
I said, there's nothing silent about any of them.
But I don't care. They don't pronounce it, you know. So many people don't.
Is
Very,
it
very
is it
so.
a German name? Like would there have been umlauts over the O? Or?
Well, the over in Germany, they said Rhodey.
Rhodey.
Yeah, Rhodey.
Hmm. She's telling you so.
So I
She knows how to
guess
pronounce it.
But when we moved down here, moved to Mays, we come over here to 13th and Tyler Dillon store to get groceries, and the clerk, she pronounced our name correctly, and I said, "Boy, you're one of the few that's ever done that." She says, "Well, that's my maiden name. That's my name. I'm a realty too." She says, "I'm a realty too."
all right, gotta switch again.
Yeah, her dad was
Honey, she said he's got a sweat. Shut up.
no. I can say
No.
her dad was something to do with the city of Wichita for years.
Huh.
Sam Rothie, and he came out from Topeka's where he
Grammy
came
had
from.
to